Okay, so today we are going to be looking at sketching linear graphs with absolutes. So really all you have to do for this is follow the pattern of what it's saying. Today we're just going to sketch three functions. We're going to sketch f of x, then we're going to sketch the absolute of f of x, and then we're going to sketch the function with x absoluted. Okay, for something to be absoluted, it just means that there is a fancy way around it, but we're just disregarding the negative symbol. Okay, so if I'm going to let my function equal y equals 3x plus 2. Okay, all this means is that I'm substituting these values of y into my function to get an answer. So if I substitute the first one in, I have 3 times minus 5 plus 2. So that's going to be negative 13. Okay, and then we know because this is a linear function, each time it's going to be increasing by 3. So the next one will be negative 10, and then negative 7, and then negative 4, negative 1, 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, and 17. Now, each time I could have gone through and completed this process where I substitute each of these values into my function, show all the working for it. But at this stage, we don't really need to do that. That's not what the question is asking us to do anymore. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to graph our function over here so that we can see the effects of graphing an absolute. Now, because this is a linear function, I only need to pick 2 coordinates, and then I can graph those two, join them up with a straight line. So I'm going to choose when x is 2, y is 8. So when x is 2, y is going to be 8, which will be here. When x is 0, y is 2. Okay, and now I'm going to join those two with a line. Start all the way from over here. Don't worry, I'm going to pick it up and move it in a second anyway. Okay, so let's just pretend that I've hit those coordinates perfectly. Okay, so that's what it looks like when I sketch f of x, just normally how we would sketch a linear function. The next thing that I want to show you is what will occur if I sketch the absolute of f of x. Now, for this to really have the full effect, I want you to see what effect it's having on the y-axis, what effect it's having on the x-axis. All we have to do is exactly what it tells us to do in the function. So if I would like to look at the function y equals the absolute of f of x, it means I substitute into my equation normally. So 3 bracket minus 5 bracket plus 2. Then once I have my answer for that, I'm going to take the absolute value, which means I'm no longer using the negative. I'm going to disclude the negative and I'm going to stick with the positive. So now, if I disclude all of these negatives, that's what the absolute values are going to be. So 13, 10, 7, and if I did all the fancy working for this, you'd see same pattern follows. 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, and 17. So up until this point, I had no effect occurring. Over here, we've discluded them. So have a little think. What effect might this have on our axis? Okay, because I'm going to have this same black graph that's occurring, the same black line, all the way up to a certain point. Then I'm going to show you what's going to happen with the next part by plotting 2 of my coordinates and then joining them with the line. Okay, so I'm going to choose when x is negative 2, y is going to be 4. When x is negative 2, y is positive 4. And I'm going to choose when x is negative 4, y is going to be 10. Okay, now, if you have plotted your lines correctly, you should see, this is going to hit in kind of an interesting spot. Okay, so now you can see this thing has kind of ricocheted off the x-axis. It's no longer going to be following the same pattern. At this point, if you look at your cheat sheet that I gave you, you'll be able to see that there is some information about this on there. So it's telling us that it's going to ignore the negative symbol, and then when we graph that down here, if you look here, it's just going to reflect it up off that axis. Okay, now we're going to look at the last case we have. So, again, we're going to fill in our table of values. So, y, oh, better change that back to black. Okay, so now we're going to look at y equals f, then we're absoluting the value of x. So if x is a negative, we're going to ignore it now. So I'm going to substitute into my function, but whatever x is, I'm going to absolute it. So now I've got 3, absolute value of negative 5, plus 2. Okay, so this was going to become a positive 5, so 3 times 5 is going to be 15, plus 2 makes 17. So this one down here is going to be 17. This is going to have absolutely no effect above 0. This is only going to affect the negative numbers because they're the only ones that are being changed. So I can fill in all my positive values. They'll stay the same. There we go. Okay, and now if I change this one in here to a 4, 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 makes 14. 3 times 3 makes 9, plus 2 makes 11. And I can see again I'm following that pattern where each time I'm increasing by 3. So I'm going to just skip ahead and do that now. So because I'm coming from this direction, we're actually going to decrease the next one by 3. So that'll be 8, and this next one will be 5. Okay, now I can sketch this one onto my graph. So we're going to choose a different color to do this. Let's choose to do this one in green. Okay, so now my first step, plot some coordinates on. I'm going to pick 2. I'm only going to plot 2 of these on so that you can see what effect it has on the straight line here. So we're going to plot on when x is negative 2, y is 8. We're going to plot on when x is negative 4, y is 14. So when x is negative 2, y is 8, which will be about here. And when x is negative 4, y is 14. So that's about there. Now if I join these two with a straight line, you'll see what effect this has on our graph now. And we'll see when we hit straight through at that point. Well, we'll start again. We'll try that again. Oh, no. Okay. Look, it's just hitting off now at the y-axis instead of the x-axis. So let's pretend that all of my lines were passing through the points that they were supposed to. Okay, that's the effect that it has when you put the absolute value around the function or when you're absoluting just x. If you look at your cheat sheet, it explains this in a bit more detail. So remember to keep this next to you while you're studying. That way you can use it as a guide. Pi for now. Get it? Instead of bye for now. Bye for now. So clever.